The feed call. One of the trickiest things to master when learning to blow your duck call, but after today's video, you will have it nailed down in no time. We're going to talk about what the feed call actually is, how to do it, and most importantly, how to use it, because that is the most important factor when doing anything on a duck call. My name's Jake, you're watching Chasing Green, where I'm all about duck hunting here. If you're into that, consider subscribing. And without further ado, grab your duck calls and let's get started. Now there's a lot of talk, a lot of speculation about what the feed call actually is. What are ducks saying when they do it? Now most biologists say, and I tend to agree with this theory, that it's actually more of a spacing call. I like to think of it as like a dog growling. They're just saying, hey, you're getting in my space, you're invading my zone, watch out, back up. Now we don't know that for sure, but that seems like the most logical answer to me. So after studying ducks for years and listening to thousands upon thousands, there tends to be about 3 general types of feed calls that ducks use. The first is what I call the rolling feed. This is typically only done in the air, and it's typically when they're flying a little bit higher. They're in flight formation. It's more of a fast, just like it sounds, roll and higher pitch, although it's not as fast as what you typically hear people do on a duck call. The second is what I call the broken excited feed. This is also often only done in the air, and it's typically done when ducks are circling over your decoys or circling over other ducks. They're getting excited, they're starting to switch formations as they're locked up and as they're circling. I think they're just kind of saying, hey, you're getting in my space, you're getting in my flight path, back up, but they could also be just getting excited and chattering with the ducks on the water. But I've only heard them do this in the air, really. Now the third version is what I actually refer to as the feed call. It's what ducks do when they're on the water, and they're typically feeding when they do this. It's also broken up in nature, but it's lower, it's a little more subtle, and it's typically only done when they got their beaks down and they're feeding. So those are the sounds ducks naturally make, but oftentimes in duck hunting, we're riding the line of being natural while also trying to make the ducks do what we want them to do. So just like we talked about there being 3 types of feed calls that ducks actually do, there's also 3 types of feed call that most people do on the duck call. And I say this generally because everybody has a little bit different style of feed call. It's probably the one type of call that is the most customizable. You can put the most amount of your own style into it. I rarely hear people that have the same 2 types of feed call. But for the most part, all feed calls fit into one of these 3 categories. They may go by a lot of different names, but I like to refer to them as the rolling feed, the broken feed, and the aggressive feed. All feed call sounds are produced roughly the same way. They're produced by the motion of your tongue slapping up against the roof of your mouth and coming back down. And you achieve this by saying words like ticka, dugga, digga, tugga. I prefer to use ticka. But if you're having trouble producing the feed call sound, I would suggest trying all these words, because everybody's mouth, everybody's tongue is a little bit different. Just try all those and see which one works better for you. Now let's get our duck calls out and learn how to actually make these sounds. I always recommend people to start with the broken feed. So that's where we're going to start today. It's the realistic feed. It's, in my opinion, the easiest feed to learn, and I think it's the one you should use most often. So that's where I like to start. I like to use the word ticka, and when I'm doing my feed, I'm just going ticka 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 ticka. But you could also just as easily do dugga 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 digga 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 tugga tugga tugga. When I turn my call around, if you have trouble producing that sound, I would start slow and just produce like 2 notes, like ticka. Ticka, ticka. And then put 2 and 2 together, make 4 notes, and 6 and 8. Ticka, 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 ticka. And then once you're able to do that, it's all about just getting in the cadence to try to sound like a duck. You need to probably listen to ducks to do that. I have some videos that have duck sounds on my channel. You can check that out. But you just got to get the cadence into a broken, natural cadence. Like, also, another version of the realistic feed you can do is the single note. There's the 2-note feeds and then single notes. If you struggle to roll your tongue and you struggle to do the feed call, starting out with a single note feed may be the best option for you. And to achieve that, instead of saying ticka or digga, you say tick or dig. Tick, 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 dig, 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 dig. And this can, I mean, ducks make this sound. This is a very realistic feed call. And this is what it sounds like. With the call turned backwards, it's like this. Once you get that single note down, tick, 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 tick. It's all about getting it into a natural cadence that sounds like a duck. But just start out. Tick, 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 tick. Or dig, 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 dig. Dug, 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 dug. Then once you're able to achieve that, keep practicing on adding an A to the end of it. Tick, 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 tick. Next, let's move on to the rolling feed. Now, if you can roll your tongue real easy, the rolling feed's gonna be easy for you. It's just saying ticka or digga, whatever your word is, over and over and over. Ticka, 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 ticka. Now, I'm not the best at the rolling feed. There's people who can do it a lot faster and smoother than me, but I never use it. So, also referred to as the Main Street feed. They do this a lot in competition calling. Now let's cover how to do the aggressive feed. And the aggressive feed is really best suited for team calling. When you got multiple callers, you're trying to make a bunch of noise and you're trying to pull ducks from a long ways. In my opinion, that's really the only time to use this. But when used properly in that situation, it can be the best of all the feed calls. It goes something like this. And you can get lower or more aggressive with it. When we're really trying to pull ducks from a long ways, we're really getting on it. And it's more like this. Basically, all you're doing with that is either do a broken or a rolling and then add a quack into it. And the way you achieve that is by just saying your word and then adding a pause into it or a sustained note into it. All you need to do is stall your tongue out while keeping air going. And this one takes some practice. You really have to master the feed before you're going to be able to do this. This is what it sounds like with the call turned backwards. Now for the most important part of this video, which is how to use the feed call. You get this part down and you're gonna be okay no matter what you do. After 20 plus years of calling ducks, these are the things I've generally noticed, observed, and learned about using the feed call. My favorite way to use the feed call and the most effective way that we use it for myself and my group style, like 4+ callers doing the aggressive feed. We're typically trying to pull ducks from a long ways. We're hunting public, we're hunting near refuges, and we're a lot of times calling at ducks that aren't really looking where we are. So when we get 4, 5, 6 guys all doing that aggressive feed, just rolling, quacking, putting greeting cadences in it, we can pull ducks from a really long ways. On some days, I've seen us break ducks from over a half mile. There'll be just little dots out there. And then when the ducks start getting in close, we broke them, we got their attention, we back off more and more as they get closer. And by the time they're in their tight circle, and we shut up on that. We just use it as a method to call them from a long ways. It's almost like the hell call. It's pretty much the same thing. We're using the same method. When you actually roll up on a large congregation of ducks that are comfortable and they feel safe and they're feeding, this is what they're doing. You can hear them from a long ways. It's just this roar of feed. I've had it work with 3 guys. I've even had it work a time or two with 2. But you really need 4+. The more the better with this. Now the way I use the feed call when I'm just by myself or just singularly calling is I always do a realistic feed, a broken up, realistic, slower feed. I never use the rolling feed when I'm by myself and I'm calling at ducks up close, because ducks don't do that on the water. I've never seen a duck do that on the water. Now, does that mean it's impossible to call ducks in doing the rolling feed when they're up close? Absolutely not. I've seen a lot of people do it. I just choose to not do it. With the feed call in general, one mistake, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that I see a lot of callers make it, is that they use the feed call just to fill space. When the ducks are circling, they think they need to be making noise at them, and so they just do the feed call. And to me, that's just the worst way to use the feed call. But a lot of people do it, and it works. And like a lot of things in duck hunting, this kind of depends on where you are geographically. There's things that work on less pressure ducks in the north that you come to Arkansas trying that and you're going to be humbled pretty quickly. I've seen a lot of days in Arkansas where you hit the ducks with just one guy on a feed call and they know immediately that's a duck call. I mean, it will literally flare them. Out west and up north, that's not so much the case usually, but I'm still very careful with how I use the feed call. I pay super close attention to how the ducks are reacting to it. So it can be really good or really bad. I'm not saying you should never use it. I'm just simply saying you should be careful in how you use it, and you should pay attention to what the ducks are thinking about it that day. Experiment, figure out what works best for you. You may kill a ton of ducks using that roll-in feed. There's so many different ways to achieve a successful duck hunt. I'm just telling you things that work for me. If you want to see some more duck hunting tips, click this video right here to see the 5 mistakes most new duck callers make. You can also click this video at the bottom and see the duck calling masterclass I did with Jonathan from Echo Duck Calls. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time right here on Chasing Green.